All right, in this video, we want to factor these complex trinomials over here. So what makes them complex is that the a value in the question in these equations is always greater than 1 or basically not equal to 1. So in order to factor these questions, we use a method called MAN method, where M stands for multiplication, A stands for addition, and N stands for numbers. So my multiplication is my first term times my last term. So 2 times 5 is 10. My addition is my middle number over here, which is 11. And then I want to think of two numbers that multiply to 10 and add to 11. Always think of your multiples first. So I know that 10 times 1 is 10, and 10 plus 1 is 11. So my two numbers are 10 and 1. So next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to write the first term the exact same 2t squared. Then I'm going to break down the middle term into my two numbers. So I'm going to break down 11t into plus 10t plus 1t, which is just t. And then I'll write the plus 5 the exact same. So the middle term, you break this down into your two numbers that you figured out over here. Next, we're going to factor this by grouping. In order to factor by grouping, you want to split it down the middle. You want to common factor out the first two terms. So my largest common factor for these two is 2t, and I'm left with t plus 5. My largest common factor for these two, there's no common factor, so I'll just take out a plus 1. I'm left with t plus 5. The brackets have to match in this step. If the brackets don't match, it means you've made a mistake somewhere in the question. My last step, I'm going to common factor out t plus 5, the two basically identical brackets, and I'll be left with just whatever's on the outside, which is 2t plus 1, and now this is in fully factored form. Let's try the rest of the examples for some practice. Let's take a look at this second one here. I'll start with my MAN method. My M is 2 times 3, which is 6. My A is -7. So again, let me think of two numbers that multiply to 6. 6 times 1 is 6. And then 6 plus 1 can give me 7. But now I have to figure out the signs. To get -7, I can make them both negatives. So -6 times -1 is +6. -6 plus -1 is -7. So I've got my two numbers now. I can break it down over there. So 2y squared, I'll write the same. -7y, I'll break into my two numbers, which is -6y minus 1y, and then plus 3. I'll write the same. I'll split it down the middle. A common factor for these two is 2y, and I'm left with y minus 3. And my common factor for these two is just -1. And if I common factor out -1, I'll be left with y. Positive 3 divided by -1 is -3. Again, as you can see, the brackets match. So I'll write the brackets as my first bracket. My second bracket is the outside, which is 2y minus 1. All right, two more examples. Let's go to the third one over here. My M is 4 times -7, which is -28. My A is positive 27. So two numbers that multiply to 28. I can do 28 and 1. Then I know that they subtract to give me 27. So my two numbers are 28 and 1. And to get positive 27, I have to do 28 and -1. So 28 times -1 is -28. 28 plus -1 is 27. I'll break it down again over here. So 4y squared plus 28y minus 1y minus 7. I'll split it in the middle and factor by grouping. So common factor for these two is 4y. I'm just left with y plus 7. Common factor for these two is just -1. I'm left with y plus 7. One thing to note is that if this sign is negative, this one will always be negative. Same thing in the last question. This sign was negative. That's why this one is negative. So final solution here, y plus 7 for y minus 1. Then last and final question. Let's try this one here. So multiply, addition, numbers. So what multiplies 4 times -3 is -12. My a is just -1. My two numbers, so 12 times 1 is 12, but 12 plus or minus 1 will not give me 1, so I have to try something else. 6 times 2 is 12, but 6 plus 2 is not 1, 6 minus 2 is not 1, so that won't work. 4 times 3 is 12, and then 4 minus 3 will give me 1. So I know my numbers are 4 and 3. Now I have to decide the signs. Because my multiplication is negative, one of these has to be negative. To get an addition of -1, it will be -4 and +3, because -4 plus 3 is -1. Let's factor it by grouping again. Excuse me. And we'll split it down the middle. Okay. K minus 1 plus 3. K minus 1. And then my final solution is just k minus 1 times 4k plus 3. And that's how you factor complex trinomials. If you made it to the end of this video and you found this content helpful, please hit that like and subscribe button. Thank you for watching and have a wonderful day.